Hey everybody, it's Robyn and welcome to my channel where I have this adorable little car cake to share with all of you. And if your kids love cars or dinkies and bright colors, then this is the cake for you. And this is going to be really simple and fun, so let's get right into it. So for today's cake, we're going to be using 3 6-inch vanilla cake layers, which I'm first going to level out, set my cake scraps off to the side, and then I'm going to take that final layer at the end and we're going to flip that over, and we're also going to carve the caramelization off that as well, so we can use this as our middle layer when we stack and fill our cake. So to begin the stacking process, we first need to attach that first layer. So I'm going to use a little bit of buttercream on my cake board to act as a bit of a glue. And then we're going to take our piping bag and apply a nice thick layer of buttercream in between each of our layers of cake. And this buttercream happens to be my vanilla American buttercream, which is super easy to make, and I will leave a link to the recipe in my description box below. So once we finished filling our layers, it's time for our crumb coat. So I'm taking that same vanilla American buttercream that I used to fill my layers, but I've dyed this with a little bit of my AmeriColor Royal Blue, just to give us a nice light sky blue color. And I'm just applying this with a small offset spatula until we have a nice thin even coat. But this layer does not have to look pretty. You just want to get it on there and get it off into the fridge, because we are going to make it look really nice and sharp later on when we add the final coat. So next up, as you guys can see, I've worked up an adorable little car stencil, and we're going to get to making some of these colorful little cars. So starting with a piece of red fondant, which I've rolled out to approximately 1/16 of an inch thickness. I've taken my stencil, laid it on top of the fondant, marked off the pattern, and then I've cut it out using my X-Acto knife. And I'm just repeating that step for each separate color that we're going to use and sort of layer together to create our little car image. However, I do recommend rolling out your subsequent layers of fondant slightly thinner than you rolled out that very first one to create the car with, because I do find as you layer the fondant, if it's a little bit too thick, it can look a little bit funny. But I think that looks pretty great, and we are going to use those same steps to create all the different colors. And don't they look great, guys? I think they're going to look so good on our cake. Okay, so now that those are finished, next up we are going to work on the little sign that shows the birthday boy's age. Now this is going to look like a traffic sign. It's going to have a white background with a red ring around the outside, and we're also going to do a little black number 2 in the middle. And now once I have all those layers pieced together and we trim off that excess fondant from around the outside, we're going to take our sign and give it a way to stand on top of the cake. So I'm just going to trim this excess away. Then we're going to take another piece of white fondant, roll it out to approximately 1/8 of an inch thick, press a toothpick down inside. Then we're going to take that little sign, press it down on top, sealing that toothpick in between the layers, then trimming the excess away and leaving us with this cute little number 2 sign. So this next little feature is completely optional, but I thought it was a really nice way of creating a little personal touch to the cake. So what we're going to do is cut out some little yellow stars, one for each letter in their name, and then we're going to cut out their name from some black fondant using whatever font you like. You can use cutters if you have those as well to make things easy, but I like creating my own stencils using fonts that I find fit the style of the cake. Now as for placement, you can put these wherever you like, but I want to do with these like I did with the little number 2 sign. So we're going to add some little toothpicks inside and stand them on top of our cake. Okay, so I know I already made a bunch of cars for our cake, but I want to make a little 3D dinky for the top of our cake, so that way we have a little interactive piece that can be pulled off, played with, and eaten directly off the cake, and it's completely safe. There are no toothpicks in it. So what we're going to do is make a very, very simple little car out of a piece of red fondant, and I've just shaped it very roughly. As you can see, it was really easy, and we're just adding some little windows and some very simple little wheels, and we're going to add some stuff like hubcaps and bumpers and lights, and we're also going to finish it off with a little bit of carving to give it a grille in the front and outline some of the other features like the hood and the doors and whatnot to make it look a little bit more realistic. And there you have it, simple and sweet. So that's it for the make ahead decorations. Everything else can be made and then added directly to the cake. So the next thing we have to do is add our final coat of buttercream. So starting with a nice chilled cake, we are going to take some more of that light blue buttercream that we made earlier. And we're going to use a small offset spatula to apply it to our cake and sort of just spread it around and smooth it out a little bit. And this part doesn't have to look perfect because we are going to smooth this all out in just a moment using a bench scraper. And this too is completely optional. You can use whatever you like, but I really like the bench scraper because it just gives such nice straight sides. Now I will admit the sides are the easy part. Learning how to smooth the top was a bit more difficult, but I do find as long as you're working with a chilled cake and buttercream, it shouldn't be any trouble getting those edges nice and sharp and those sides extra smooth. But if all else fails, chill it again until it's nice and firm and then scrape it down until you're happy with how it looks. Because firm buttercream is much easier to smooth than soft buttercream, so it should help you get the job done. And now we want to make sure to keep that buttercream nice and firm, so we're going to pop our cake back into the fridge to chill while we work on our final decoration. So because we made a dinky topper for our cake, I thought it would be fun to make a little track to sort of set the scene. So I need it to be slightly smaller than the size of the cake, so I've measured it all out, created a stencil, and now I'm using that to cut out the exact size and shape we need. And now to finish it off and actually make it look like a track, we're going to roll out a long piece of yellow fondant, cut it into a long thin strip, and then we're going to cut that into little segments so we can add a little dotted line down the center of our lane. And one little tip I like to use to keep those segments evenly spaced and nice and even is to first mark off your quarters, then fill in those spaces, and so on and so forth until the entire ring is completed. Now, I ended up using about 16 segments, but depending on how big you cut yours, it could end up working out a little differently. But that's it, it's now ready for the cake, and now we can begin cake decorating assembly. So to make sure this cake is nice and colorful, I thought it would be fun to cover our cake board with some green. So I've rolled out a nice long piece of green fondant. I've wet my cake board ever so slightly, but not too much. And now I'm very carefully working my green fondant up against the side of the cake, and you want it to come right up to the very edge, but not so close that you smush the buttercream. Now once our board is completely covered, we're going to trim it off where those two ends meet, and then finally trimming that excess lip of fondant away with our X-Acto knife to make it look nice and neat. And now our board is finished, so we can finally start to set the scene. So I'm going to start with my track on top first, and then I'm going to start lining up those cars down below, and I'm going to place them in a color sequence as you would see them appear in a rainbow. And I know I didn't make these on camera, but we're going to add a few little white clouds to break up that blue sky. But these are super simple. I have faith in you guys. So next we're going to take a number 133 grass piping tip and a piping bag with some green American buttercream, and I'm just going to pipe some in the center of our track and a little bit around the outside as well, just to kind of break up that blue icing a little. And now to break up all the flat fondant and add a little bit of texture, I'm going to add a few little sprigs down around the base and between the cars before adding a happy birthday message to our cake board using the same font that I used to write his name in the stars. And like before, this lettering was created using an X-Acto knife and a stencil, which is quite time consuming. So if you're looking for ease of use, I do recommend investing in alphabet cutters. And I think that looks great. We just need our toppers. So there's our number 2, our name in the stars, our cute little dinky, and now we're gonna add a pretty red ribbon to finish it all off. Well, that's it for today, guys. This was such a fun little cake, and I really enjoyed making it for all of you, and I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope it was very informative, and you get some use out of it in the near future. So yeah, if you guys liked the video, don't forget to leave us a thumbs up, leave us a comment down below to let us know what you think, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you want to be updated every time I post a new video, don't forget to ring that bell. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time for more baking fun.